Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. There is kind of a pretty big update from my last video, which kind of, I guess ended up being slightly unfortunate timing because I didn't expect it to be released literally the day after I uploaded the video. But the max roll website for Blue Protocol, which I mentioned the Star Resonance database was working on, is now live. As you can see in front of you, we have the entire max roll Blue Protocol website. And I kind of talked about how it might be similar to if you played Final Fantasy, that they have like the balance. And I would say it's actually quite similar to that, but also kind of beyond that. This kind of has everything. It's a bit of an omni app in that regard. This might be one of, if not the most useful resources, because I think it combined a lot of the stuff that the previous websites and resources had. So for reference, a lot of the people who I mentioned in that previous video, right, Shishia, Bidoof, as well as, I'm gonna call them Percy because I always mess up pronouncing their full name, but they were the one who made the announcement about the Maxroll website. And there's a few other people as well that are working on this website or working together with the people who made this website to make all of the guides and whatnot that are here. And so, you know, as you could tell, there's a lot of different stuff here to help you. In fact, one of the two things that I had mentioned that I was waiting for an update was the checklist. Which was previously just on a Excel spreadsheet, I believe, or a Google Doc. Well, now it's part of this website, the Maxroll website. And as you can see here, it actually even mentions that the author is Bidoof, who originally made the checklist. And so it still actually works as a checklist. If you go down to the week 1 section here for the just below server milestones, it shows off the weekly stuff that you can check off here, right? So you can still check off things that you do. And it'll even keep track of how many you are out of the week for week 1. You can always go back to it just by clicking on it when it's grayed out on the left and uncheck it if you realize you didn't actually do it. And you could also just scroll down on the list this way. But more importantly, it also has the actual daily checklist, right? So it literally shows and has images for just about everything. You know, says how many talent points and all that stuff you should have for each day, what's available each day, all that type of stuff. Super useful. You can go through this checklist as you complete it, and then you could continue on. Again, this sets you up for the first 4 weeks, which is, you know, basically the first month. Very useful. And even like the server milestones, it shows you kind of just the general information for what to expect for max level, basically as the days go by, with up to day 13 being when you hit level 60 and day 19 being when you get 70 talent points. And then all the skill level stuff for like the skills, not the books, but the actual skills, and some gear progression stuff when certain stuff unlocks, and then also when certain content unlocks, right? So very useful information here. And again, there is a lot more that I'll get into as well. There's a beginner's guide is another one that's very useful. Life skills guide. There's guides for every single dungeon, including the vaults. I don't think that there's a guide yet for the raid. I was trying to see if there was one, but I don't think it's up there yet. I assume it will be added eventually though. And notably as well, if you go to the little resources tab, it talks about a lot of the stuff here as well, where it mentions the life skills, again, the character progression here, and, you know, even some of the seasonal stuff, as well as the activities, but also mentions like alt class and alt character building and stuff like that. Kind of similar to that one spreadsheet we went over in that video. And it talked about building like alt classes and whatnot, and how you can try to use ones that maybe share somewhat similar stats to be able to build both. But it does note, I think, that there will be issues when you do this, because again, a lot of the classes, if you are maining them, have kind of unique stat distributions that are maybe preferred over each other, even if they share the same gear. So it just kind of warns you like that. For example, this one shows some shared stats between Shield Knight and Wind Knight to be able to build into both But again, there are some things that I'll talk about soon actually that surprised me when it comes to the stat distribution stuff, which is that basically going back to the build guides. So a lot of the people who have been playing the game for a while, especially for some of these classes, have made new updated guides, which is really, really helpful. They're up to date as of October 5th. So they are as close to when I'm releasing this video as being the most up-to-date and accurate information, presumably, that we can get. And you can filter out by just, clicking on the job icons up here, or really the NPC icons for the jobs. And then you can even choose to pick the base version or the specialization, and there's a guides for the main class, which is primarily the base class, as well as then the specialization. So I think there is exactly 3 guides for every single class that there is. And again, you can filter that out. You can also just search for it here, right? You can just search for heavy guardian, right? And then you'll get the heavy guardian stuff. Don't know why this comes up when I search heavy, but is what it is. But again, when you kind of go into these, so for example, if you go into like marksman, you get a distribution here. Oh wait, this is the main class. So actually, let me go to the like wild pack one. Yeah, because the specialization ones are really nice. They show you basically all of the gear you want in the image, which is nice. It even shows you what substats you would ideally want to look for. Again, you will not always get these substats, although I think if it is the raid armor, it will guarantee it, because this looks like it's the raid armor because there's no purple line. So it shows all that stuff. Very, very useful. So this is a purple line here. Yeah, very, very nice visualization, and also some visualization of modules and kind of what you want there. And of course, beyond that, it talks about, the talent tree. It even shows the talent tree here. It has a nice image with all of the skills invested, or all the talents invested rather, and shows you even some notable talents and what they do. You have your skills, your skill build in that regard, upgrade and advancement priority, all the imagines you might want. It talks about your rotation, your gearing, again, what stats you're prioritizing and in what order, your gems, modules, emblems, and even the set effect, right? Super, super useful information. And some of it is definitely surprising. It's a little bit different than even I would have thought, right? Because, for example, as some people had pointed out actually in the previous video, I definitely was not fully sure and or on board, or rather correct about some of the stat association stuff, right? I brought up like Shield Knight, Shield Spec, and Wind Knight Vanguard for being like the closest for recommended stats. But that definitely wasn't necessarily true, obviously, because the Vanguard actually prioritizes crit like a lot more. So as you can see here, crit is here as like the 4th most valued spec, whereas for Shield Knight, it's actually not even there at all. There isn't any crit at all. For now, they don't want any crit. So it does make it definitely a bit more tricky. But even some of the other ones, right, some people pointed out that, and I had known about it, but for some reason I didn't bring it up in the video, because I talked about how Lifebind and Concerto are fairly similar in terms of their recommended stats, but then I didn't bring up that Frostbeam was as well, even though it was directly above it. But then when I looked at the guides here, I also noticed that it is still a bit different, right? For Lifebind, you want to try to get Mastery, Crit, and then you can kind of mix Versatility and Haste. For Frostbeam, it's sort of similar, right? Crit, Haste, Mastery, Versatility. So a little bit of different order here, but otherwise still the same. But interestingly enough, then Concerto is actually no Mastery. There's no reference of Mastery, despite the fact that I think it is supposed to be a recommended stat. And I think this is confirmed actually when they talk about the gear set. But I'm not entirely sure. It just says that they guarantee crit, but I don't know. Actually, I could probably find out right here. No, they do crit and haste. Yeah, so surprisingly no mastery. in Concerto, which I think was not like a game recommended stat necessarily. I don't think it was, but I thought it was an additional viable stat. So I was kind of surprised to see how much there is basically 0 mastery here. And again, Frostmage actually was another one where it literally says it's different from what the game recommends. They do recommend crit to be prioritized in the case of that. So definitely, I think, more accurate information here, and probably clears up some stuff. I maybe wish in the alt guide that it showed kind of like the table that Hiro had of like maybe what the easiest kind of alt classes to go for would be. But you could still kind of figure it out from here, but it definitely seems like the actual stats are more unique to the class, which definitely makes multi-classing even harder than I think I originally even realized. So definitely take care when it comes to that, or just know that whatever the alt class is will most likely not be as powerful as your main class, so just be wary of that. Obviously, if it doesn't share the same gear set, you might actually have an easier time with that, because if they don't share the same gear set, you can spec that differently for that class. So there is stuff like that to keep in mind. But overall, super helpful website. One of the most helpful websites I think I've seen. Highly recommend everyone who's watching this to check it out if you haven't already. This will probably help you a lot, especially for the first couple weeks with the checklist and the beginner's guide. And again, for people who are just getting in who are new, you have the gear guide, life skill guide. And if you have, again, like Tankxiety, like I mentioned in the last video, the dungeon guide might actually help. In fact, there's the general one that I was just on, but I wonder if, I haven't actually checked if, okay, so they show the different power levels or the ability score for it, but I was curious if there were different like strategies for tanks maybe. I don't know, I guess kind of here, right? Yeah, it gives like general pathing for kind of how to go about it, which is really nice. And again, they have videos for stuff. Even a lot of the classes I think have videos if they're available. Some of them don't. Frostbeam does not. Same thing for Shield Knight. Wind Knight doesn't have one yet, but for videos or for classes that have videos, they'll add them probably as they go. Again, Shishio released updated videos for Beat Performer and Verdant Oracle. Again, just super helpful. The build planner, I think, oh, I haven't even checked this out. This is kind of neat. You can equip gear and even do the talent tree stuff here with the specialization. That is very neat. Yeah, I guess you like allows you to level up your skills. Yeah, both the book tier and the actual level, and then shows which one you have equipped. Same thing for battle imagines. Yeah, this is very helpful for like trying to plan out, I guess, like min-maxing of stats and stuff like that. And then again, there's like community builds. I don't know that there are any yet. Oh, I guess there are already some people making some. That's cool. Yeah. Again, just super helpful resource. I can't say it enough. But yeah, this just really funny timing with my last video, because I mentioned it at the end. I didn't think it would come out for a little bit, and then it came out the next day. So it is what it is in that regard. But again, check out the website. And otherwise, I'll probably have at least one more video aside from this one before launch. So thank you all for watching, and again, we are getting closer and closer to launch date. So see you in the next video, and see you in game.